You're good.
Hello, I'm Brian Graham, the chair of the Fairfax County Democratic Committee, and I'm joined today by Kelly Hebron, the chair of the Fairfax County Democratic Committee's Black Caucus, Pastor Vernon Walton of the First Baptist Church of Vienna, members of the Fairfax chapter of the NAACP, and other community leaders here in solidarity with our message. The mission of the Fairfax County Democratic Committee, with over 1,000 members and an even larger network of volunteers, is to advance and maintain the election of Democrats to public office here. We have worked hard to elect the 9 Democrats to the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. We thank the board for its work in supporting democratic values, and I could spend more time than we have here today to talk about the tremendous progress that has been made in Fairfax County under the leadership of this 9-to-1 Democratic board. But it is also our responsibility as the party to promote democratic values. A year and a day after the murder of George Floyd, we should not need to remind our elected officials that as Democrats, we believe we need to overhaul the criminal justice system from top to bottom. Police brutality is a stain on the soul of our nation. It is unacceptable that millions of people in our country have good reason to fear that they may lose their lives in a routine traffic stop, or while standing on a street corner, or while playing with a toy in a public park. It is unacceptable that Black parents must have the talk with their children to try to protect them from the very police officers who are supposed to be sworn to protect and serve them. It is unacceptable that more than 1,000 people, a quarter of them Black, have been killed by police every year in the United States since 2015. In the survey conducted in the hiring of the new police chief, Fairfax County residents raised community trust as the most important issue. To hire a candidate with any racially charged use of force incident in their past is not starting from a foundation on which trust can be built. Therefore, in the context of the events of the last year and in this moment, the Fairfax County Democratic Committee does not trust that Chief Davis is the right person to lead our police force. We call upon the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors to terminate Kevin Davis's employment, reopen the search for a new police chief, and implement a transparent hiring process using a racial equity decision-making framework and a community screening committee comparable to the one used in Fairfax County's 2013 police chief search. We remain committed to the advancement and election of Democrats to public office. We appreciate the hard work and dedication of our Board of Supervisors, and we look forward to our work as partners with Fairfax County to lead as a shining example to the nation on how to enact criminal justice reform. Next, I'd like to introduce Kelly Hebron, chair of the Fairfax County Democratic Committee, Black Caucus.
Thank you, Brian. Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Hebron, and I have the pleasure of serving as the chairperson of the Fairfax County Democratic Committee Black Caucus. I am honored to represent a team of such talented, committed, and passionate volunteers within the FCDC that are committed to making Fairfax County a more inclusive county as it grows in diversity. We are thankful to FCDC for providing the opportunity to be the voice of this constituency, and in this instance, to express our concerns and perspectives. I am grateful to Brian Graham for his leadership and transparency throughout this process. And the Black Caucus, as we all know, was established to address systemic inequity within the county through a series of outreach and accountability measures. Since its inception, the caucus has served to promote equitable governance across the country, confront and correct aspects of the county's racist history, such as renaming schools and roads, and most importantly, we identify inequitable systems of government that adversely affect our residents of color. And we work with elected officials to enact system-wide changes. Regarding the recent appointment of Kevin Davis, the caucus was driven to act by the need to hold elected officials accountable to ensure the reduction and prevention of racially motivated violence against its diverse residents during police encounters. Last night's resolution to censor the appointment of Chief Davis was a welcome and critical first step toward rebuilding trust between residents and law enforcement. We appreciate that the concerns raised by the Black Caucus regarding Chief Davis's professional history as it relates to race and policing were not only heard, but taken seriously. Transparency is the first step towards fairness and trust. It is our hope that the Board of Supervisors will take similar care and correct to validate the concerns of Fairfax County's residents of color, and heed their call for a more transparent search for a more suitable chief of police. We can do better in Fairfax County. In conclusion, we are pleased that the Fairfax County Democratic Committee has accepted and supported our decision and our resolution. Our hope now is that the Board of Supervisors will hear us and act upon this resolution with expediency. Thank you. We will now hear from Pastor Vernon Walton.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vernon Walton, and I'm the senior pastor of the First Baptist Church of Vienna. I stand today with Dr. Denise Wilson, the president of the Northern Virginia Baptist Ministers Conference, as well as the Reverend Dr. Augustus Henderson, the moderator of the Northern Virginia Baptist Association. We also have moderator Sneed with us as well. Just 2 weeks ago, we stood in the same location with representation of more than 30 faith leaders from all traditions that represented this particular county. Today, I am pleased to be able to stand in solidarity with the Fairfax County Democratic Caucus, and most specifically in support of their resolution. It is interesting, but yet in many ways I believe providential, that the committee would take such a bold and progressive vote on the anniversary of the death of George Floyd. George Floyd's death, as unfortunate as it may have been, awakened a spirit of protest here in our county. It awakened a spirit of protest around the nation, and it awakened a spirit of protest around the world. In fact, many of our elected officials, those of whom supported this candidate in choice, participated in many of these protests locally. They held signs, they kneeled in solidarity, and likewise they pledged their commitment to police reform. This afternoon, as I stand, I cannot help but imagine if those officers who witnessed and worked with Derek Chauvin, those officers who witnessed his behavior and most specifically his use of excessive force throughout his career, because I do not believe that that was the first time. If they had been bold, if they had enough courage, if they had been strong enough to call it out, if they had been bold and courageous enough to speak against the actions that they saw, perhaps today, beloved, George Floyd would still be alive. I have listened with an attentive ear to the supervisors. I have read their statements. I've had conversations with many of them. And I've heard them say, I didn't know. I've heard them say, we could have done it differently. I've heard them say, if only I had known. I've heard them say, I hear you. I've heard them say that you matter. That black and brown constituency matters. But what you haven't said publicly is he's the wrong choice. And while many of you have said it privately, you have not said it publicly. Many have asked, did you know? And now you have gone on record saying that you didn't know at the time of the hire, but in fact you were well aware at the time of the swearing in. And despite all that you knew and despite all that you were aware of, you forged ahead. And now you ask a community of people who have been profiled for years. Now you ask a community of people who have dealt with the trauma of policing for years to give him an opportunity. You say, let's see what happens. I ask you today, supervisors, how costly will the mistake have to be before you are willing to admit that this was not the best decision? Who starts a new job as top cop, explaining to the people that they're responsible to, that I am not the person that you've read about? Today, I applaud the Fairfax County Democratic Black Caucus, and I applaud you for your willingness to take a stand, and I applaud the entire Fairfax County Democratic Committee and its leadership for using your voice and your vote in a very strong manner to send a very strong message. And I am certain that you have not arrived at this particular place easily. But in fact, your convictions have driven you to this particular place where you cannot help but to speak truth to power, even when it's your own brothers and sisters of the same party. Now, I call upon every other elected official to do likewise. Every other elected official who believes in police reform, every other elected official who participated in rallies, every other elected official who participated in marches, every other elected official who knelt, every other elected official who sought the vote of black and brown and immigrant individuals. I call upon you to likewise use your voice and your vote. I call upon all of those who campaigned on these ideals and solicited support from marginalized communities to do so with swiftness and to add your voice to this resolution and to add your voice to this matter. Because when one hurts, we all hurt, and people are hurting. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for their time and attention on this matter. I think it's very important. I don't know if we have any questions, but I'm assuming that we don't. Do you have a question?
I'm Marcia Hobson with the Connection newspapers. I'm checking to see by show of hands who's going to attend tonight's public forum with Chief Davis. Or if you wish to join it virtually.
So the question was whether or not we're considering joining the public forum today with Chief Davis?
Yes.
By a show of hands?
Yes, show of hands. You can say considering.
No, considering?
Yes. Did I get a unanimous? Yes. You can't hear me.
I didn't hear the question.
The question was whether or not we're considering attending the forum that the police chief is having today.
Tonight.
Was it a review panel? Okay. I feel like a lot of us have had conversations already with Board of Supervisors and or with the chief directly. I don't know that there's more. Maybe we've heard enough, but I think that shows that there.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your attention on this matter. This is not something that FCDC does regularly ever, right? This is very unusual, and in the circumstances of this moment, I think just it indicated that we needed to take a stand on the matter. So that we look forward to the conversations that happen out of this, and we look to drive change, positive change in Fairfax County because of that. Thank you.
Thank you.